So, having survived to the point of gray-haired Khans in their towers, the Kremlin realized that it doesn't need to bother with the quality of shows for the people anymore. They can lay all their cards on the table, no need for any complicated schemes, no need to worry about plausibility, they can just lie about everything. After all, the people of the Russian Federation were raised on Buzova, Voloshkova, and Simonian. So from the familiar troughs of television, it devours everything. These people consume expired goods, rotten stuff, pure informational rot, and even mold. And they smack their lips sweetly and lick their fingers with pleasure. That's why we won't repeat all those internet breakdowns of Putin's lies, even though in its own way, it's a record. At his press conference, where he was summing up the results of the peace talks, he really managed to gather everything together. But we won't catch him out on his words simply because it's pointless. It's a total, stupid, helpless, almost completely blind lie. It has long since become Putin's style. He confirmed to those present, to the world, that his illness is stable, that the symptoms have not faded, that his need to commit genocide is in perfect order. And as expected, this speech by the Kremlin patient caused a wild orgasm throughout the entire Russian world. And so the father of Fried Dasha Dugin, a graphomaniac, he was absolutely ecstatic and wrote that Russia has chosen war for another 20 years. 5 exclamation marks. I envy those hundreds of thousands who will die for the motherland. 10 exclamation marks. I've already said, writes Dugin, that we will be fighting for another 20 years. And President Putin confirmed my words. What happiness. The war will be terrible, they write. Millions will die, and they will find the best death in the world, dying for Russia. God, how I envy them. Well, and in the video on my Telegram channel, you can, to finally be convinced that Putin is lying about everything, see, first of all, the basements of Pokrovsk packed with wounded orcs, and by the way, an interesting reaction from the SVO soldiers to Putin's cocky stand-up about how the war will be eternal. But really, Putin was poorly prepared for his stand-up. And as I already said, the issue isn't even about the lying. Putin could have at least once indulged his fans and pampered his lackeys with microphones. The so-called media. For the sake of a big press conference following the peace talks, he could have decorated both his bald spot and his face with 130 nails, like, if you remember, Pinhead. That's a character from the movie Hellraiser. I think if Putin had shown up with nails, the Russian press would have bowed lower than hell itself without a single complaint. And yes, compared to the Kremlin patient, all those Freddy Kruegers, some Jeepers Creepers, those are all little angels, kind-hearted humanists, because no horror in the world has ever reached the level of absurd darkness that Putin has. And all horror movies, all of them, of course, pale in comparison to the simple press conferences of the Russian president. The thing is, this story has been going on for a long time, and everyone has already gotten used to it, and no one feels the sharpness of the stench that today emits. It's amazing how quickly all of this dulls in people. A pervert stands there openly boasting about the murder of hundreds of thousands of people. A child butcher stands there, a tormentor of their mothers, a killer of fathers, grinning as he tells the world that he will continue turning people into corpses and their homes into charred ruins. And he gets applause. Just a mere few short years ago, even the very idea of such a bold, outspoken stand-up performance, even on the most strictly forbidden, highly closed channels, truly seemed utterly unreal and completely unimaginable. But now it's become normal. But here's what I think. If high-level geopolitical considerations eventually force or prompt the Kremlin to sell off the people they've grown tired of, if they've squeezed them dry completely, then the announcement about selling the Russian people will probably look something like this. for sale. An excellent people of indeterminate breed, vaccinated, claws removed, teeth filed down, trained to wear a strict collar, and a trash bin with scraps. And by that, I mean absolutely any bin, whether it's expired goods from Pyatorochka or the one belonging to Solovyov. Nightmares in general have become an organic part of life, and look at how deftly, how gently, and how inevitably they became a part of it. What's happening at this press conference is truly, absolutely surreal. In front of a crowd of media workers, a perversion struts and boasts about millions killed. Yet all of this has the status of an official, respectable event, and the planet has gotten used to it in just a miserable 4 years. Moreover, all of them, to some extent, have already come to terms with it. I mean, those who have gotten used to this. And by that, I mean, first and foremost, Russia. But really, it can't be in theory that so many millions of people, almost 140, could be so deranged, so blind. I assure you they can. Oh, they absolutely can. Just remember the rapture of Adolf's endless crowds. Remember the myriads of dog-eaters and others like them. Remember the mourners at Stalin's funeral. That's what makes cretinism so dangerous. It's a highly, I assure you, contagious and mass phenomenon. And yet not a single cretin among the cretinous masses actually thinks of themselves as a cretin. He's simply convinced that he loves his motherland. And the Germans of 1939, the Stalinists and the followers of In, they are all, above all, certain of this.